When speaking of Africa's most distinctive tribes, few names resonate as strongly as the Maasai. They are an iconic semi-nomadic people of East Africa, inhabiting southern Kenya and northern Tanzania, the site of tall, slender warriors draped in vivid red shúkà cloth, women adorned with intricate beaded necklaces, and the rhythmic sound of their traditional jumping dance, adumu, has made the Maasai one of the most recognizable cultures in the world. But behind these striking images lies a deeper story, a history of migration, survival, and profound connection to land and livestock. Anthropologists trace the Maasai back to the Nilotic peoples, who likely originated near the Upper Nile Valley, in what is today South Sudan. Around the 15th to 16th centuries, groups of Nilotic pastoralists began moving southward, bringing with them cattle, language, and a worldview shaped by the life of herders. Over centuries, they settled across the Great Rift Valley of East Africa. Their devotion to cattle became the cornerstone of their culture, not merely as food or wealth, but as sacred beings gifted by God. To this day, the Maasai believe all. Cattle were entrusted to them by Enkai, their supreme deity, making livestock both an economic foundation and a spiritual covenant. The Maasai homeland today stretches across the sweeping savannas of the Great Rift Valley, landscapes of golden grasslands, scattered acacia trees, and dramatic volcanic mountains. Herds of cattle, goats, and sheep graze across plains that they share with elephants, lions, and giraffes. The region includes some of the world's most famous wildlife sanctuaries, the Serengeti in Tanzania and the Maasai Mara in Kenya. These are places where millions of tourists come to witness the great migration of wildebeest. Yet for the Maasai, it is simply the backdrop of their daily lives. The land itself is both harsh and generous. Rainfall can be unpredictable, droughts devastating, and diseases can wipe out herds. But it is also a land of abundance, where cattle can thrive, where medicinal plants grow, and where the open sky creates a constant bond between people and the divine. To the Maasai, this is not just land. It is Enkai's land, a sacred trust handed down from their ancestors. Historically, the Maasai were among the most powerful peoples in East Africa. During the 19th century, their warriors, known as Moran, were feared for their height, courage, and skill. Oral histories recount how the Maasai expanded across vast territories, reaching as far as the shores of Lake Victoria. Their military strength, combined with their intimate knowledge of the land, allowed them to dominate wide swathes of East Africa. Yet history also brought challenges. Devastating cattle diseases in the late 19th century, colonial land seizures, and periods of famine reduced their power and forced many Maasai into smaller areas. Despite these trials, they never lost their cultural identity. What sets the Maasai apart is their determination to preserve their way of life. Even as Kenya and Tanzania developed modern cities and economies, the Maasai continued to live in Enkang, circular homesteads built from mud, sticks, and cow dung, surrounded by thorn fences to protect livestock from predators. They walk across savannas with their herds, dressed in the traditional red cloth that symbolizes strength and bravery. Their songs, dances, and beadwork remain vibrant expressions of identity, linking each generation to the next. The spiritual geography of the Maasai also reflects this deep connection. Sacred mountains, such as Doinyo Lengai, the Mountain of God, are seen as dwelling places of Enkai. Every star, every blade of grass, and every calf born into a herd is woven into a worldview where human life, cattle, and nature form a single, inseparable circle. This relationship with the land is not romantic nostalgia, but practical survival. The Maasai know where to find water in dry seasons, how to rotate grazing lands, and how to move in harmony with natural cycles. Their identity cannot be separated from their environment. Today, visitors often encounter Maasai communities at the edge of wildlife reserves. To outsiders, they may appear as symbols of timeless tradition. Tourists photograph their bright clothing and dramatic dances, often without realizing the depth of history and meaning behind these practices. Yet, for the Maasai themselves, daily life remains a balance between embracing modern opportunities and honoring ancestral obligations. The land still anchors their culture, their cattle remain sacred wealth, and Enkai continues to guide their destiny. Thus, the story of the Maasai begins not just with a people, but with a land of vast skies, roaming animals, and red earth. It is here, in the heart of the Great Rift Valley, that the Maasai shaped their identity. Proud, resilient, and unshaken by the tides of history. To understand the Maasai is to walk with them across these endless plains, to feel the sun and wind that define their days, and to see the world as they do, as a sacred gift entrusted by God, to be lived with honor and courage. If the vast savannas of East Africa provide the backdrop, then the daily rhythms of life among the Maasai are the living heartbeat of their culture. To an outsider, the image of red-clothed herders walking with cattle under the African sun may seem almost timeless, and in many ways it is. For the Maasai, tradition is not an abstract concept. It is lived, practiced, and passed on every day, in every action, from the way homes are built to the songs sung at night. The Nkang, the heart of Maasai. Living Maasai communities are traditionally organized into Nkang, circular homesteads built by women using branches, mud, grass, and cow dung. These homes are practical. The walls insulate against heat and cold, and the low entrances protect against wind and keep livestock safe at night. Surrounding the cluster of huts is a thorny fence of acacia branches, forming a barrier against lions, hyenas, and other predators. Inside the Nkang, life revolves around cattle. Calves and goats are herded into a central pen at night, where their bleating mixes with the crackle of small fires. The smell of wood smoke, animal hides, and earth fills the air, a sensory signature of Maasai life. Each Nkang is not just a physical space, but a symbolic one, a circle of protection, community, and continuity with ancestors. Food and sustenance. The Maasai diet is inseparable from cattle. Milk is the primary staple, often consumed fresh or fermented into a yogurt-like drink. Meat is eaten on special occasions, while blood, drawn carefully from the jugular of a living cow without killing it, is considered a vital source of strength. This practice shocks many outsiders, but for the Maasai, it is an expression of their profound bond with cattle, an exchange of life that sustains without destroying. Today, diets have begun to include maize, porridge, and vegetables through trade and modernization, but milk, meat, and blood remain the cultural core of Maasai nourishment. Food, like everything else, is tied to ritual. A boy becoming a warrior, a wedding celebration, or a sacred festival always involves the sharing of cattle products, affirming community and tradition. Clothing. The iconic shúkà. Perhaps nothing is more visually striking than Maasai clothing. The shúkà, a bright cloth typically in shades of red, blue, or purple, is draped over the body in flowing folds. Red is most common, symbolizing strength, bravery, and the blood of cattle. Men wear the cloth in distinctive wraps, often carrying spears, while women combine it with elaborate beaded collars, earrings, and headpieces. Beadwork is not merely decoration, but storytelling. The colors of the beads, red for bravery, blue for the sky, green for the land, white for purity, all carry meaning. Women spend hours crafting intricate necklaces and bracelets that reflect identity, age, and social status. To wear Maasai beadwork is to carry one's culture openly, a visible declaration of belonging. Daily roles and gender-balanced life. Among the Maasai is highly structured by age and gender roles. Men are primarily herders and protectors. From an early age, boys tend goats and calves, later taking on the responsibility of leading cattle to pasture. Women, meanwhile, build homes, prepare food, fetch water, and raise children. Yet their role extends far beyond domestic tasks. As creators of beadwork, keepers of tradition, and spiritual anchors of the household, women are central to cultural preservation. The Maasai social structure is built on age sets. Young men upon initiation become moran, warriors. This role lasts for several years, during which they live together, undergo trials of courage, and serve as defenders of the community. Later, they transition into elderhood, where wisdom, decision-making, and spiritual authority become their primary duties. This system ensures that every stage of life has purpose and honor. Rituals and ceremonies mark every major transition in Maasai life. Birth, initiation, marriage, and death are all surrounded by elaborate customs that bind the individual to the community. The most famous is the Unoto ceremony, when warriors transition to elderhood, symbolizing maturity and responsibility. Music and dance are inseparable from these rituals. Maasai songs are rich in rhythm and harmony, with deep, resonant chants by men and high-pitched responses by women. The most iconic dance is the adumu, or jumping dance, where young warriors leap as high as possible in a test of strength and vitality. The circle of singers, the rhythmic clapping, and the soaring jumps are not just a spectacle for tourists, but a sacred affirmation of unity, courage, and identity. The rhythm of a day. A typical day in a Maasai community begins at sunrise. Men and boys drive cattle to pasture, sometimes walking miles in search of fresh grazing land. Women prepare morning milk, tend to homes, and begin their beadwork. Children play, chase goats, or practice herding. Evenings are a time of return. Cattle are guided back, fires lit, stories told, and songs sung. Under the vast canopy of African stars, daily life becomes a tapestry woven from countless small acts of survival, faith, and joy. Daily life among the Maasai is not defined by modern conveniences or urban rhythms. It is shaped by cattle, land, and ritual, threads that bind together past, present, and future. For the Maasai, to live is to honor tradition, to safeguard cattle, and to walk proudly in the footsteps of their ancestors. The Maasai way of life is not only shaped by the land and cattle, but also by a complex and highly organized social structure. To the outside world, the Maasai might appear as a single unified tribe, but within the community, roles and responsibilities are carefully divided by age, gender, and status. This structure has allowed them to maintain order, transmit values, and preserve culture for centuries. The age-set system, Olaji. At the very heart of Maasai society lies the age-set system, known as Olaji. Every Maasai male belongs to an age set, which functions like a lifelong brotherhood. Boys of similar age are initiated together, pass through life stages together, and remain bound as companions until death. This system is not simply social, but deeply functional. Each age set has clear duties. Children, Ilayak, learn to herd goats and calves. Warriors, Ilmoran, after circumcision and initiation, take on the role of protectors. They live together in special camps called manyata, training in endurance, hunting, and communal responsibility. Junior elders move into family life, marry, and begin managing cattle and households. Senior elders become custodians of wisdom, resolving disputes and guiding spiritual rituals. The progression ensures that society is always balanced. While some serve as defenders, others provide leadership, and still others nurture the next generation. The warrior class, Ilmoran. The most celebrated stage of life in Maasai society is that of the warrior. Known as Ilmoran, these young men embody the strength and pride of the Maasai. Their duty is not just physical protection against predators or enemies, but also the preservation of honor and courage. In the past, warriors were expected to demonstrate bravery by hunting lions, a practice that has now largely ended due to conservation efforts. Today, the symbolism remains. The warrior is not only a fighter, but a cultural icon. They participate in ceremonies, lead dances, and represent the vitality of the community. The period of warriorhood is marked by strict codes of conduct, communal living, and the forging of bonds that last a lifetime. Women, keepers of the household and tradition. While men dominate the age-set system, women play an equally vital role. In Maasai society, they are the builders of homes, responsible for constructing huts out of mud and dung. They provide food, care for children, and maintain the household. Yet beyond these practical duties, Maasai women are also custodians of tradition through beadwork and ritual. Every necklace, bracelet, and headdress crafted by a Maasai woman carries meaning, symbols of fertility, age, marital status, and even social rank. Through these creations, women preserve and communicate the tribe's identity. In ceremonies, their songs and voices balance those of the men, reminding the community that strength lies not only in the spear, but also in nurture and resilience. Marriage is another cornerstone of Maasai social life. Traditionally arranged by elders, marriages link families and clans together, ensuring harmony and unity within the community. Women often move into their husband's enkang, where they become part of a larger extended family unit. Elders, guardians. Of wisdom and law, at the top of Maasai society are the elders. Age brings respect and authority, and the elders are seen as living repositories of knowledge. They are judges, priests, and counselors all at once. Elders settle disputes, perform blessings, and mediate between the people and Enkai, their god. Unlike warriors, who are defined by physical prowess, elders are defined by wisdom and spiritual depth. Their decisions are binding, not because of coercion, but because of the reverence the Maasai have for age and experience. This system ensures continuity. While the young are fiery and strong, the old provide balance, memory, and perspective. A collective identity. One striking feature of Maasai social life is its collective identity. Individual desires are always woven into the larger fabric of the community. A warrior's courage belongs to his age set, a woman's beadwork reflects her family, and an elder's wisdom serves the entire tribe. No role is isolated. Each is part of a living cycle where responsibility and honor pass from one generation to the next. Challenges and change in recent decades, modern influences have begun reshaping this structure. Formal education, urban migration, and government policies have introduced new roles that do not fit neatly into the age-set system. Some Maasai men now become teachers, doctors, or politicians, positions once unimaginable within traditional structures. Women, too, are gaining new opportunities for leadership beyond the household. Yet despite these shifts, the age-set and communal roles remain deeply embedded. Even Maasai who move to cities often return home for ceremonies, reaffirming their place in the cycle of life. The system endures not because it resists change, but because it adapts while preserving the essence of unity, responsibility, and pride. In the social world of the Maasai, every person has a place, every stage has dignity, and every role is tied to the survival of the community. From the playful child to the courageous warrior, from the creative mother to the wise elder, each thread weaves into the red and golden tapestry of Maasai life. To understand the Maasai is to understand their spiritual world. For the Maasai, life is not only about survival on the savanna, it is also about living in harmony with forces greater than themselves. Their worldview blends faith in Enkai, reverence for cattle, and respect for the cycles of nature. Every ritual, every song, and every tradition is infused with spiritual meaning, linking the people not only to their ancestors but also to the land, the sky, and the divine. Enkai, the supreme god. At the center of Maasai belief stands Enkai, sometimes called Ngai, the supreme god. Enkai is not distant but intimately connected to daily life. He is the giver of rain, the protector of cattle, and the source of fertility for both land and people. Without Enkai's blessing, the Maasai believe, no grass will grow, no cows will thrive, and no children will be born. Enkai is understood in dual aspects. Enkai Narok, black god, benevolent, life-giving, associated with rain and prosperity. Enkai Nanyoki, red god, harsh, punishing, associated with drought, famine, and hardship. This duality reflects the Maasai's lived reality on the savanna. The same sky that nourishes them with rain can also withhold life, testing their resilience. Cattle. The sacred gift in Maasai mythology, all cattle on earth were given to them by Enkai. This belief explains why cattle are not only economic resources but also divine trust. To take cattle from the Maasai is, in their worldview, to violate the will of God. Hence, cattle raids and defense of herds historically carried spiritual weight, not just material significance. Cattle are offered in sacrifice during ceremonies, their blood and milk consumed as sacred nourishment. The act is not just practical, it is communion with Enkai, a reminder of the divine gift that sustains human life. The sacred mountain. The Maasai believe in holy landscapes, the most important being Doinyo Lengai, meaning the mountain of God. Located in northern Tanzania, this active volcano is seen as the dwelling place of Enkai. Its ash-black slopes, often shrouded in clouds, dominate the horizon and remind the Maasai of the divine presence that towers above them. Pilgrimages and prayers at this mountain connect the community directly with the divine. Rituals and blessings rituals among the Maasai are not separate from life. They are life. Every transition, birth, initiation, marriage, elderhood, death, is marked by blessings and ceremonies. Birth rituals. Welcome new life into the community. Elders bless the child, invoking Enkai's protection. Circumcision marks the passage of boys into warriorhood. It is not merely physical, but spiritual, a test of courage that ties the boy to his age set and to Enkai's watch. Marriage rituals involve blessings for fertility, prosperity, and harmony, again centered around cattle as the sacred medium. Funeral practices are less emphasized, since the Maasai traditionally see death as a return to the natural order, while life and fertility receive greater ritual focus. In every ritual, prayers are offered in the form of songs, chants, and rhythmic blessings by elders. Milk, blood, and honey beer may be shared as symbols of life's sweetness and strength. Myths and stories. Like many oral cultures, the Maasai pass down their worldview through myths and stories told around fires at night. One central myth recounts how Enkai sent cattle down from the sky on a leather rope. When the rope was cut, only the Maasai retained God's sacred cattle, explaining their eternal bond with livestock. Other tales speak of heroes who faced lions, droughts, and rival tribes with courage granted by Enkai. Mythological narratives are not simply entertainment. They teach moral lessons, explain natural events, and root the Maasai in a spiritual universe where nothing happens by chance. The role of elders and prophets' religious authority is largely carried by elders, who act as priests, mediators, and keepers of sacred knowledge. Through prayer, blessings, and sacrifice, they intercede with Enkai on behalf of the people. In times of drought, elders gather under sacred trees to pray for rain, their chants rising like smoke into the heavens. There are also prophets, known as Laban, who hold special spiritual powers. The Laban guides the community in matters of ritual, healing, and prophecy. He is seen as a channel between Enkai and the people, interpreting dreams, offering protection, and ensuring balance between the natural and spiritual worlds. Harmony with nature. For the Maasai, spirituality is not confined to temples or altars. The entire landscape, trees, mountains, rivers, cattle, stars, is a sacred stage where life unfolds. Respect for nature is built into their beliefs. Cutting down a tree unnecessarily, wasting resources, or neglecting cattle is seen as disrespect to Enkai. This worldview has helped the Maasai survive for centuries in a fragile ecosystem. By treating land and livestock as sacred, they created a cultural ethic of stewardship, where survival and spirituality are one and the same. In the mythology of the Maasai, the divine is never far away. It is in the rain that falls, the calf that is born, the beadwork that sparkles under the sun. Life itself is a prayer, a dialogue with Enkai, and every Maasai is both participant and custodian in this sacred conversation. For the Maasai, history is not written in books. It is sung, spoken, and remembered around fires, in homesteads, and during communal gatherings. Their oral tradition is both archive and classroom, keeping alive the voices of ancestors and shaping the values of new generations. These stories are not merely entertainment. They are lessons about bravery, morality, the sacredness of cattle, and the eternal relationship between people, land, and God. The rope from heaven, one of the most important Maasai myths, tells of how Enkai sent cattle from the sky. According to this story, Enkai lowered herds of cattle to the Maasai through a leather rope. But when the rope was cut by a jealous rival, the Maasai were left with all the cattle that had already descended, which is why they believe cattle belong to them by divine right. This tale underpins their deep conviction that livestock is not only wealth but a sacred trust. The hero and the lion, another common type of tale, celebrates the bravery of warriors. One famous story tells of a young Maasai warrior who faced a lion armed with nothing but a spear. By standing his ground, he not only protected his cattle, but also proved his courage to his community. Such stories reinforce the value of Nkata, bravery, which is expected of every Moran, warrior. These legends also explain why lion hunts were once part of the initiation of warriors. Killing a lion was seen as a proof of manhood and protector status, though in modern times, conservation laws have greatly limited this practice. Today, stories of lion encounters serve as symbolic lessons about strength and courage, the tale of the sacred calf in. Some oral traditions, a calf born with unusual markings or behavior is believed to be a messenger from Enkai. Legends tell of calves leading their herds to water during droughts or warning the community of danger. Such tales emphasize the sacred role of cattle and remind the Maasai that animals, too, are part of the divine conversation. Trickster tales and moral lessons. Not all stories are solemn or heroic. The Maasai also tell trickster tales where clever characters outwit the proud or greedy. In one story, a hyena pretends to be a wise elder but is exposed when his hunger gives him away. In another, a hare uses wit to escape predators much stronger than itself. These humorous tales often carry moral lessons. Don't be greedy, respect elders, and value intelligence as much as strength. Songs as oral history. Maasai oral tradition is not limited to spoken stories. It is also embedded in songs and chants. Warriors sing of battles, cattle raids, or great journeys. Women compose songs about love, marriage, and the joys or struggles of family life. Elders chant blessings at ceremonies, weaving together memory, prayer, and instruction. Through song, history is carried not on paper, but in rhythm and melody. Age. Set narratives, a unique feature of Maasai oral tradition, is how it is structured around age sets. Every Maasai male belongs to a named age set, progressing through stages. of life together with his peers, from boyhood to warriorhood to elderhood. Oral stories tied to age sets preserve history across generations. For instance, elders may say, "During the age set of the Iltarosero, the great drought came," or, "When the Ilkishili were warriors, the lion hunts were at their peak." In this way, stories are also calendars, linking memory to social structure, prophecies, and visions. Some oral traditions come through the Liban, the spiritual leader of the Maasai. Stories of Libans who predicted droughts, wars, or migrations are passed down as proof of divine guidance. These tales elevate the role of spiritual vision in Maasai society, reminding people that their destiny is tied to both human courage and divine will. Why oral tradition endures. Despite the spread of writing and modern education, oral storytelling remains central to Maasai life because it is communal. When a story is told, children gather, elders bless, women sing, and warriors chant responses. The act of storytelling itself strengthens social bonds, making the community itself the book in which memory is written. For the Maasai, legends are not relics of the past. They are living voices, shaping identity, morality, and spirituality. In every story of a warrior's courage, a sacred calf, or a trickster's mischief, the Maasai find reminders of who they are, a people entrusted by Enkai, guardians of cattle, and inheritors of a rich legacy sung under the African sky. The image of the Maasai, tall warriors wrapped in red cloth, women in dazzling beadwork, and cattle grazing against the backdrop of acacia trees, has become one of the most recognizable cultural symbols of Africa. But behind this image lies a complex reality. In the 21st century, the Maasai face enormous pressures, from loss of land and climate change to education, globalization, and tourism. Their story today is one of resilience, negotiation, and constant adaptation. Land, loss and displacement. Perhaps the greatest challenge for the Maasai is the loss of their ancestral lands. Over the last century, large tracts of Maasai territory have been taken for colonial settlement, government projects, or the creation of national parks and wildlife reserves such as the Serengeti and the Maasai Mara. While these reserves attract millions of tourists, they often restrict Maasai access to grazing lands and water sources. Families who once roamed freely now find themselves confined to smaller areas. The pressure on land means less pasture for cattle, which directly threatens the foundation of their culture and economy. Climate change and drought living in the savannas has always required resilience, but in recent decades, climate change has intensified droughts and unpredictable weather. Rainfall patterns have shifted, leading to more frequent famines and livestock deaths. For a community whose lifeblood is cattle, losing herds can mean cultural as well as economic devastation. Some Maasai have begun diversifying into crops like maize or beans, though farming is traditionally not part of their lifestyle. Others migrate with their herds more frequently, often leading to conflicts with neighboring communities over scarce resources. Education and modern opportunities. Another transformation is the growth of formal education. Traditionally, Maasai boys learned warrior skills while girls were trained in household responsibilities. Today, more children are attending schools, often encouraged by NGOs and governments. Education has opened new opportunities. Maasai men and women now work as teachers, doctors, entrepreneurs, and even politicians. Some young Maasai become guides in the booming safari industry, where their knowledge of land and wildlife is highly valued. Yet education also creates tensions. Many elders fear that schools teach children to reject traditional values, leading to loss of language and cultural practices. Families must weigh the benefits of literacy and jobs against the erosion of customs passed down for centuries. Tourism and cultural performance. Tourism has become both a blessing and a challenge. Visitors to Kenya and Tanzania often expect to see the traditional Maasai experience. Villages sometimes stage dances, songs, or rituals for tourists, creating income but also commodifying culture. Some Maasai welcome tourism as a lifeline, selling beadwork or charging entry fees to villages. Others see it as exploitation, reducing sacred traditions to mere entertainment. The challenge lies in finding balance, preserving authenticity while engaging with a global audience that admires their culture. Gender roles and change traditionally, Maasai society has been patriarchal, with men controlling livestock and decision-making. But modern influences are reshaping gender roles. Increasingly, Maasai women are gaining education, entering the workforce, and leading community initiatives. Women's groups have emerged, focusing on beadwork cooperatives, microfinance projects, and campaigns against harmful practices such as female genital mutilation, FGM, which has been a controversial rite of passage. These efforts highlight the Maasai's ability to adapt while still respecting tradition, preservation of language and identity. The Maasai speak Ma, a Nilotic language, alongside Swahili and English in modern contexts, as younger generations move. To cities, however, there is concern that Ma may decline. Elders stress the importance of teaching oral traditions and language at home to prevent cultural erosion. At the same time, Maasai leaders are increasingly using modern tools, including radio, social media, and film, to share their stories. By embracing technology, they aim to preserve culture in new forms, ensuring that identity survives even in changing times. Negotiating. Modernity, for many Maasai, adaptation is not about abandoning tradition, but negotiating modernity on their own terms. Some families continue herding while also sending children to school. Others mix traditional ceremonies with church practices, or wear Western clothing alongside the iconic red shúkà. This dual identity, Maasai and modern, reflects resilience. It shows that culture is not static, but alive, capable of evolving, without losing its core values. As one Maasai elder once said, "We are still the Maasai. Even if we live in towns, we carry Enkai and our cattle in our hearts." Global visibility, ironically, globalization has both endangered and celebrated Maasai identity. Their image is used worldwide in advertisements, fashion, and branding, sometimes without consent. Yet it has also made them cultural ambassadors, symbols of Africa's heritage and human resilience. The challenge is to ensure that this visibility benefits Maasai communities themselves, empowering them rather than exploiting their image. The Maasai today stand at a crossroads. They are guardians of a proud past, yet also citizens of a rapidly changing world. Their resilience lies in their ability to adapt without surrendering, to continue walking the savannas with cattle while also stepping into classrooms, offices, and global conversations. Their challenge, and their gift, is to show the world that tradition and modernity need not be enemies but partners in shaping a future that honors both heritage and progress. The story of the Maasai is not just about the past. It is about a living culture that continues to inspire, adapt, and endure. From their beginnings as Nilotic pastoralists in the Great Rift Valley to their modern presence on the global stage, the Maasai have walked a path defined by resilience, courage, and devotion to both land and cattle. Their legacy is not frozen in time. It is evolving, reshaped by the challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. A symbol of African heritage. Few peoples embody the visual and cultural image of Africa as strongly as the Maasai. Their red, shúkà cloth, beadwork, dances, and warrior traditions have become emblems recognized worldwide. For many, the Maasai represent not just a tribe, but the spirit of Africa's ancient ties between humans, animals, and landscapes. This global recognition, is a double-edged sword. It has placed the Maasai in the spotlight, attracting admiration and tourism, but has also made them vulnerable to exploitation and stereotypes. Yet their visibility also gives them a powerful platform. As cultural ambassadors, the Maasai can remind the world of values often forgotten: community, respect for nature, and spiritual connection to land. Guardians of tradition, the Maasai's most enduring legacy is their determination to guard their traditions. In a world where many indigenous cultures have been erased or absorbed, the Maasai remain distinctly themselves. They continue to herd cattle, speak Ma, perform rituals, and teach oral histories to new generations. Even when faced with pressure to modernize, they choose carefully what to adopt and what to preserve. This conscious act of cultural guardianship is itself a form of resistance, proof that tradition can survive globalization when lived with pride and purpose. Innovation and adaptation. The Maasai's future will not be built by isolation, but by adaptation. Already they are finding innovative ways to merge tradition and modernity. Some communities use mobile phones to track cattle movements or access weather forecasts. Women's cooperatives sell beadwork online, reaching global markets while keeping craft traditions alive. Young Maasai activists use social media to advocate for land rights, cultural preservation, and environmental justice. This adaptability ensures that the Maasai are not relics of the past, but active participants in shaping their future. Challenges to overcome. Yet the road ahead is not without obstacles. Land rights remain a pressing struggle, as governments and corporations seek to use Maasai territories for tourism, agriculture, or development. Climate change threatens not only their herds but also the fragile ecosystems they depend upon. Language preservation and cultural education are also urgent, as younger generations are drawn into urban life. The challenge for the Maasai will be to balance integration with preservation, to secure education, healthcare, and opportunities, while safeguarding the values that make them unique. Inspiration for the world beyond their own survival, the Maasai offer lessons for the global community. Their worldview, in which cattle, land, and people are bound in sacred trust, challenges modern societies to rethink their relationship with nature. At a time when climate change, overconsumption, and disconnection from the earth are global concerns, the Maasai remind us of an older wisdom, that survival depends on harmony, not domination. Their resilience also serves as an inspiration to other indigenous peoples. Like the Inuit of the Arctic or the Navajo of North America, the Maasai demonstrate that cultural strength lies not only in holding on to the past, but in living tradition dynamically in the present. Looking forward, the Maasai's legacy will continue to unfold in the decades to come. They may not all remain herders. Some will be doctors, teachers, or leaders in cities. Yet even in new roles, their identity as Maasai will endure, carried in language, stories, beadwork, rituals, and the memory of walking the wide African plains with cattle under the gaze of Enkai. As they step into the future, the Maasai carry with them both challenge and hope. Their legacy is a reminder that identity is not a museum artifact but a living, breathing force. The red shúkà, the songs, the dances, the stories, and the deep bond with cattle and land, these will continue to define who they are, even as the world changes around them. In the end, the Maasai teach us this: culture is strongest not when it resists change completely, nor when it abandons itself to modernity, but when it walks proudly between the two worlds. The Maasai walk that path every day, across the savannas, into schools and cities, onto global stages, carrying with them the wisdom of their ancestors and the dreams of generations yet to come.